Hey everyone, it's time for the fourth Maock Draft for this class. This time I was able to get some footage going in Vegas, so we'll go with what will hopefully be the normal format. First, I'll walk through all the games we watched with highlights from Nate and some clips from Karmazin where he gives us feedback. Then we'll go through the first round of our draft and break down how I think things should play out. We'll start with the Thursday night spectacle of the number one versus the number two when the Wizards and Jazz played. Nate was kind enough to get on the ground day early and got us some highlights. Thanks for the footage. Both these guys showed us why they're top picks. Beyond their obvious athleticism, AJ showed just how decisive he can be. He moved great out there and passed well. It's also crazy how obvious it was that AJ was the best player out there. It's a stark contrast to the other game for Darren Peterson, who tried to go at him hard the entire game on both sides of the floor. I'll talk more about it later, but I have concerns for Peterson's coachability, at least in the short term, even though he played really well that night. When we got in on Friday, we got to catch the end of the Heat-Bucks game, so we didn't see much of Ament or Burries. The first game we got a good look at was the Nets versus Nick. Jack Cahill didn't play that game, but we did get to see some action from Michael Brown Jr., Tyler Nickel, and the second-year Nets. I definitely liked what I saw from MBJ. He's really smart out there. He's not just going to the second option as an emergency, he's really making reads and being decisive. In the last mock, I brought up his size and defense as the main concerns. He still has them, but he is young. He will grow. He seems smart enough that I think he can learn to defend better. I'm definitely in on him now. Tyler Nickel was a great pickup for the Knicks. He was the leading scorer for them in both games we watched because he really knows his role and has a beautiful shot. I hate comparing a white player to a white player just because, but he gives big JJ Redick vibes. He moves really well without the ball and cuts at the right moments. He knows his role and does well at it. I'd love to have him on most teams. The next game we watched was the Bulls versus Grizzlies. Before breaking it down, here's some of Nate's highlights.
Take it over. Over.
And here's Carmi's take on the game.
So the Boozer versus Wilson matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the best thing we saw yesterday. I think Boozer's athleticism and defense could make him a better player overall. But from a fantasy perspective, and Wilson just jumped out the gym. His stats are going to be good. He could defend better than I think I thought he would. Yeah. And I mean, shit, he could fucking just light it up. Like, he could just pour it on. And he could score at all three levels. I don't know. I think that from a fantasy perspective, it might be Wilson. But I think in terms of career and guy you'd rather have on your team, Boozer would be in the real world. But for fantasy purposes, I don't know, Wilson.
I also loved Caleb Wilson. He leapt off the page in a way that screams stardom. Great scoring, defense, athleticism, decision-making. He's got the right instincts and tools to go far. He just needs to refine a little. Absolutely explosive scoring debut. On the other side of the floor, Cam Boozer, just wow. I was just as impressed as I expected to be. He was by far the smartest player on the floor in that game. He realized pretty early on that Caleb Wilson was coming at him on defense and really used that to his advantage, abusing Caleb on the screen every drive to open up a driving lane. You love to see court vision extend beyond just making nice passes. Our final game on Friday was Lakers vs. Thunder. The main features were Ade Mara and Cameron Carr, but I was also looking out for Josh Dix and Bennett Starts. Here's Carmi's comments on the matchup.
All right, so the Thunder Lakers game.
Yeah, Morrow was the big disappointment. Expected a lot out of a guy that big who probably should have been the best player on the floor the entire game. Yeah, Lakers, I did not expect to see a whole lot out of their Summer League team. Was very surprised by some of the contributions they got across the board. And they got guys guys I never even heard of who might actually earn minutes in a rotation at some point.
Yeah, especially with LeBron gone, Luka needs guys to pass to.
They're going to have to find a way to fill out that roster. They're, with that much money tied up in a few contracts now, they're going to need budget guys.
Totally agreed about Mara and his stamina. It was a real concern out there. He really struggled in this game getting up and down the court. On the other hand, it was visible how much teams avoid shooting in the paint when he was down there. Clearly, he's impacting the game on defense. Cameron Carr, one of the Lakers players he mentioned, was a nice surprise. That guy was all over the place, but not in a hustle way, more in a right place, right time way. He drove the Lakers offense when he was out there. Bennett Sturst was also really nice. Similar to Tyler Nickel, moved well without the ball, cut well, hit some good shots. Exactly what I wanted to see out of him. Josh Dix was also a pleasant surprise. He's a UDFA, so I'm not expecting a lot, but I do see him making an NBA roster at some point. For day 3 of Summer League, we caught the tail end of Pelicans versus Hornets, which was pretty fun. Some great effort out there from the Year 2 Hornets, and some fun people on the Pel squad that won't make it anywhere, but were nice to watch anyway. No Christian Anderson today. Our next game was Knicks versus Spurs. Jack Cahill played, so we got some looks at him and a nice second look at Tyler Nickel. We also saw Terrace Reed Jr. from the Spurs, who could be one of Wemby's backups this season. Cahill was definitely good out there, if not that exciting. He was athletic and moved well with the ball. Pretty good things to hear about someone picked at 39. Nickel was more of the same, which is great to see in terms of consistency. Great cutting and shooting, turning him into the top scorer for the Knicks once again. Terrace Reed was fine out there. We'll see where he goes, but not mountains of praise for the 22-year-old. I was hoping to see more. He is definitely a strong, mature player, but I don't know how long he is for the league if he doesn't develop more. The next game we saw was Atlanta versus Brooklyn, a real eye-opener for all the rookies involved. Michael Brown Jr. didn't play, so it was Kingston Flemings and Zuby Ejiofor getting all of my scrutiny. I called Ejiofor a 22-year-old Montrezl Harrell in the last mock. After watching him in Summer League, I have slightly higher hopes for him. He moved well in defense and was a big energy guy in some situation. Sure, there's some size concerns when facing real NBA players, but I wouldn't mind throwing a flyer on him. For Kingston Flemings, he played pretty well out there, but the size concerns are still real. He's got plenty of time to grow, and he does well for a guy as small as he is, sure. He is still very small out there. He needs to develop a defensive game like Muggsy Bogues or beef up his upper body like Isaiah Thomas to stay in the league. I think he's worth picking up for sure, especially at his age. He's one of the younger guys in the draft, so he has plenty of time to develop. We caught the first half of Lakers versus Mavericks, and once again, Cameron Carr was a treat. He was far and away the best player on the floor, relishing out with great hustle. Luka's gonna love him. For the final day, we were pretty exhausted, but managed to get to the pavilion in time to catch a good chunk of Pelicans Suns. Koa Pete was the main guy to watch out there. While he missed a lot of shots, I'm not really mad about the misses. If he's a hard worker, those shots go in eventually. He's looking good at forcing contact and playing through it, as well as being decisive on offense while leading the fast break. All things you want to see out there. The next game on the slate was Celtics versus Hornets. Not only did I get a good chance to scout Hans Steinbeck, Chris Sinnock Jr., and Dylan Mitchell, but Christian Anderson played, the guy from the tweet, and you could easily see why. Anderson is the first player I've ever seen who has both good and bad court vision. When he runs the point, he has a plan, and he knows how to execute it. You can see him hunting for his teammates before the pass gets to them, and he navigates screening actions with finesse. On the other hand, he has some of the most intense tunnel vision I have ever seen. The defense was able to take advantage of his laser focus a few times and jump the passing lane, and on defense, his ball watching killed Charlotte's chances of winning the game. You hope that he can be coached to be better since the talent is clearly there. A De'Aaron Fox type that doesn't need much to get better to see a long-term role in the league. Hannes Steinbeck was an interesting contrast. He seemed really coachable out there. He knew his role really well, ran the offense and defensive schemes as if he'd been playing them all his life, even when he was involved. It's also rare that I watch someone and come away thinking that they complained to the refs the right way. For the Celtics, Chris Sanak was a joy to watch. We missed seeing him send the game into OT before, but he still matched up really well against Kalkbrenner, who is a real NBA player. His lack of involvement didn't hamper his impact on the game much. Sometimes, subtlety is important on a stage like this. I loved his patience on defense and his hustle in loose ball situations. For Mitchell, I called him an older, worse Jordan Walsh, and now that I've seen him play, I sincerely mean that in a good way. His explosive energy is the only real difference from Walsh's style. He could run laps around the gym and not be tired, and he was everywhere on the floor, a constant playmaker. Sure, he's probably going to spend some time in the G League this season, but after that, teams want to get him on the floor, especially as an injury fill-in. There's a lot of rooms for guys like this. We then popped back over to the Thomas and Mack Center to catch the end of Warriors versus Thunder. Although they shared the floor a fair amount, we didn't really see Ademara match up much against Yaxel Lendeborg. I was disappointed. I want to see the ex-teammates go at it. Mara did a lot better with his stamina in this outing for it being the second half. Definitely alleviated my concerns from the game. He also seemed to be in the paint a little more on offense, which was nice, if ineffective. I love watching Lendeborg in person, though. He really looked like an adult amongst children with his intelligence on the court. He's a great pickup for the Warriors, and I like his long-term place in the league. The next game was Wizards versus Kings, and let me tell you, this game gave me strong impressions. I think Darius Acuff Jr. might be the biggest bust of the last 6 years, and that includes Ricochet. I take back everything I said about him in the last mock. He looked so bored and disinterested out there whenever he was not the only person handling the ball. Nate said he was similar on Thursday night. I've never seen someone so allergic to team basketball. Blown by on defense, a lot of times just not even trying to move. Just tragic. AJ, on the other hand, used the opportunity to be more passive. He did a lot to set people up more, allowed the rest of the team to take over the game. Will Riley had an amazing game. AJ still used his full tool bag, but it shows his versatility on and off ball over these two games. The last game of the weekend was Clippers versus Jazz. It was a very interesting contrast for Peterson from the first game, and Keaton Wagler had one of the weirdest showings I've ever seen from a player. Peterson continued his aggressive play. He said he wanted to hit 9 fouls every game, but this one he only had 4. He was still very aggressive on both ends of the floor. When he's the best player on the floor, he knows it and lets everyone know that he knows it. His physicality really showed up on defense. He was hunting Wagler down the floor every possession. I really liked what I saw from him this game, and I'm excited to see him play against the real NBA defense this season. For Wagler, man, it's like the opposite of that Cooper Flagg versus Dylan Harper matchup from last year. The Mavs were throwing weird looks at Coop the whole game, making him run point, and watching him do that, you could see him learn from his mistakes over the course of the game. It was incredible to watch. With Wagler, you gotta hope the player development guys in LA know their work is cut out for them. He didn't learn, no matter how many times he brought the ball up straight into Darren Peterson's giant-ass arms and couldn't do anything. Eventually, his teammates figured out they might need to screen him every once in a while to help him out, but he certainly didn't. Also, never have I ever seen someone make just every single wrong decision on defense. Acuff was incredibly passive. Wagler at least moved, just never the right way. Now, on to the rankings themselves. Before we get into these, I want to clarify how I did this top 16. I don't think the draft will go in this order, and I'm sure when we do the next mock, we'll see a very different order. But, based on what I saw and heard, I think these are the 16 best prospects in this draft class. Some of these will be reaches, and if I say trade, it's because I think someone should trade up or down for the chance at that guy specifically. Starting with the top guys, I think all these guys have a realistic shot at being all-stars. We're really just quibbling about the margins here. Obviously, I am taking AJ first. He showed us how much he is him. Dude is stellar. If I have the number 1 pick, I am drafting him. For number 2, I'm sure a lot of people saw this coming, but I'm taking Cameron Boozer. He's smart, he's got drive, he has a good attitude, and I think his player archetype is going to be valuable in the NBA. A great addition to Arslay's team that is devoid of any real talent. For number 3, I gotta go with Caleb Wilson. Similar reasons to Carlos Boozer. He's got drive, he's got attitude, and I think he's an incredible three-way scorer who will always have a place in this league when healthy. I don't love Chicago as his landing spot, but I'm hoping Thiago Splitter can develop him properly. If Brief wants to make a real retooling move to be competitive, training him for Stefan Giannis from Chris might be the big swing it takes to make him a real contender. Otherwise, he should draft him. At number 4, I am taking Darren Peterson. Sure, there are real concerns about him. Number 2 picks have shortened careers, and his creatine cramps could contribute to that chronicle. I've also got questions about his coachability, but with his talent and athleticism, it's all just quibbles. He has real all-star potential if he can get it together. Now, at this point in the draft, I'm not looking for all-stars as much as consistency. Are they going to get a second contract? Are they going to be a starter? Could they start on a championship team or at least contribute, maybe like a six-man? At number 5, I think Akash would be smart to reach down to Michael Brown Jr. He's a good young player with a lot of potential and could be treated as a tank piece in the crowded Brooklyn rotation. Of the small guards who are bad at defense leading this draft, he's my favorite, and he could easily fulfill a Fred VanVleet-like role on a championship team. When it comes to fantasy worth and this year's number 6 pick, I think the value is with Yaxel Lindeborg. It's quite the jump, sure, but he's so mature. He's going to an org that will use him well in the coming months, and I think there's a few contenders out there who might want to throw Aaron what it takes to get this pick off his hands to grab him. If he can earn his way with Steve Kerr, he will be delivering for your fantasy team by January. At number 7, there's Christian Anderson. Just like Michael Brown Jr., he just needs to fix his game a little and develop another facet to be worth extending. All-star might be a stretch, sure, but anyone who can run an offense as well as he can has staying power. I know I've been advising Joe to trade this pick because the timeline might not make sense, but I really like this kid. He could be something, and I don't know if I'd pass up the chance to draft him. Pick number 8 is Kingston Flemings. Dave says he's conservative, so it might not be the right pick for him. For me, I really see the number 8 value after watching Flemings in person. The if isn't that big, sure. He grows up a couple inches in the next few years, he will be elite. He's got all the skills of a small guard, and he really feels like top 8 value without being much more. This is what I'll call the calibration stretch. I don't really get to watch much of Merez Johnson Jr. or Braden Burries, but I trust the orgs that they're in, and I think they're great value at 9 and 10 based on the landing spot and the hype. The more draft analysis I do, the more I value the opinions of NBA scouts, and 8, 9, and 10 all feel very right to me. David and Arcelay can't really go wrong with either of these guys. They're both almost 21, similar position, and similar developmental goals. At this point in the draft, I'd take a chance on either of them. Number 11 is a little bit of a blip, with Hannes Steinbach being the guy to reach for here. He screams role player who plays role, which isn't as common as it needs to be. Even if he doesn't make a starting lineup, I think he'll find ways to contribute for a long time. The 20-year-old number 14 pick is a great fit for Aaron's timeline. For the 12th pick, I really do think it's Ade Mara. If the question is, how likely is this guy to sign a second contract and contribute to winning basketball, I believe Ade Mara is the 12th most likely player in this draft. The ifs are bigger here, almost as big as he is, and so is the upside. We're seeing a new era of big men with Wemby and Chet, and Mara might be the guy to have in the years to come if he develops well. Bigs don't always do well in Summer League, sure, but what's the worst case scenario with him, really? Boban Marjanovic? Also, I think Sahil is close to contending, and swapping Mara for Lindeberg might be a good trade for him and Aaron. At number 13, we have Nate Ament, a player I'm taking at cost because I didn't scout him. I said draft last time, and I'm saying it now. I think he's a good fit for Carby's timeline. At the end of the calibration window, we have the number 14 pick. I don't think it will be controversial to take Bennett Sturtz here, given how the Thunder have been moving this offseason. They got rid of some of their shooters, and Sturtz is the kind of high IQ guy who can slot easily into an offense. The perfect depth guy for the Thunder. John or any other contender should be happy to draft him here. For my last 2 picks, I'm going with some real reaches here based on the pick number. Again, let's go back to the question I'm trying to answer here. How likely is this guy to sign a second contract and contribute to winning basketball? At number 15, I'm easily giving that spot to the 6'11", 19-year-old the Celtics drafted at pick number 27, Chris Maock Jr. Not only did he look great out there, but he's only 19. Akash or someone else interested in pushing their tank along should absolutely try to grab this pick from James with the role player to take him if he's available. Thinking about that question once again with the final pick of our first round, and it's Cameron Carr. He's able to sneak in on the taxi squad for a season or two. He's got good potential to grow on the Lakers, and he also could produce right off the bat given their roster and cap situation, plus their lack of future picks. The Lakers will look to supplement their team the same way the KD Warriors did in 18 and 19, and Carr is poised to get serious minutes if he shows just a spark. He's got a lot of potential to succeed and fits every timeline. I would absolutely draft him here had I the pick. For the next round, there's obviously a few people worth looking at. Someone should grab Darius Acuff or Keaton Wagler eventually. Cole Pete, Jack Cahill, and Sergio De La Reyna are all great stashes, as is LeBaron Philon if you want the Kingston Flemings experience but at a lower cost. Finally, shout out to Dylan Mitchell. I think he should be taken in the second round of our draft by someone who has the roster space to spare. That's it for this mock. See you next time.